All right, Don, what are we going to be talking about tonight?
Well, I posted on there about doing some testimonials. I don't know if people want to get their name out there, but we're trying to get together and do a DVD to where we can get like all of the students if you want to participate in it. Mention your website, what you're selling, and you've been a student, how long you've been a student, and try to keep it like 3 minutes or under, just a little short thing, and we'll see how many we can get and we post that up. And I did a video and put it up on YouTube already, and it's got almost 100 views and put it up about an hour ago. Basically, it's two brand new students, and we're at the end of February. They've never done splits before. So I got a good strong hive, and we did a short little video on it. You can see it's a double deep, pretty well packed with bees, and we making splits. We made 8 splits in probably an hour and a half, 2 hours, which is it's slow for a commercial beekeeper, but for new students that's getting around and starting to handle bees on their own, they actually do the work themselves here. And I put that video up to show it that we're doing small, hands-on, 2, maybe 3 students at a time. So it's not like going to some big bee place and you have 30 or 40 people there and no one gets a chance to touch the bees. You're watching movies and that. So I thought I'd put that up. And then I've got a new product out there that's not mine. I get samples sent to me. We put that on, and I'll try to get a video to show how that's doing. So far, it looks like the bees are taking it up pretty good. But, if the bees are hungry, they're going to eat about anything. But a lot of times, if you get into commercial beekeeping, you're going to get yourself out there where you get a lot of samples. People want you to endorse it or to talk about it. So I'm giving them a shot at it and see what they're going to do with it. So since we got a lot of new people coming in all the time, try to keep all your questions to like 3 minutes to the point. And then if you got plenty of time, then, we get back to you and we can talk some more on it. But let's give all the new people a chance to express themselves and ask the questions. I know all the old timers get tired of hearing the same old thing, but it's interesting to see how fast the students come along. So who's got the first questions?
Nobody's got their hands up yet. Everybody's being shy first thing as normal.
Pretend like there's a big barbecue sandwich at the top of the screen.
Looks like Nancy has a question. Oh, where'd she go? Go ahead, Nancy.
Okay,
Nope, you just muted yourself again. Unmute.
Unmute. Okay.
There you go.
Okay. Hey, hi, Don. Hi, everyone. I have a question. Donovan wants to come and visit you. He'll just bring our old camper. He wants to be there for probably a couple months. He wants to learn how to do the queens.
Okay.
So when's a good time? He's still a senior in high school, so he'll come next year.
Well, we're just got started this year. You mean another whole year?
So yeah, it'll be another year.
Look how old I am. I might not even be here.
Well, that's what you told me, but you're still here. So
well, if I'm here, I'll teach.
Okay. So January, February, March is good time for him to come?
Well, January, February here, we do a lot of building. That's our build-up time. Now, when it gets into March, we don't have time to do a whole lot of building. I mean, I could teach a student how to build a box or 2, but right now we're setting up new yards. The philosophy is if you're not setting up new yards, you're not growing, you're dying. So you got to keep increasing.
Okay, so if he wants to learn how to do queens, graft queens, what's a good time for him to come?
I'd say anytime mid-March or in April.
Okay.
I think Melissa come down, it was probably the end of March, maybe the 1st of April. No, it was later. Yeah. We are grafting now. I mean, we already they're out in the field right now setting up a yard. They just took 300 cells out and they're out there with flashlights setting up.
Well, when we were visiting you, you were doing it in June.
Right. Well, we do it all the way up into probably September.
Okay. So he can stay as long as he wants until he gets it down and play. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Get those hands up. Everyone's staring at each other. Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
Hey, Don. I'm going to teach a class or two in late March, early April on making queens, not using grafting, as far as some of your technique of cutting the comb and putting it in the frame, and then looking at the queen castles, and then just basically, being able to take and move frames around to create queens where somebody's wanting to make 5 or 6 or 10 or 12, they can do it. What other techniques can you talk about?
Well, the easiest is crowd the bees, and then, if you run across senior citizens, they might want, 4 or 5 or maybe half a dozen queens. I do videos strictly by accident. And I done the one where you just lay a frame down and cut a 1-inch strip and just lay it between the frames. So simple. No one puts nothing like that up. And the 2 older men that come to see us grafting, that's how that started. They said, well, that's fine. You can see, we have bad eyesight and everything else. So I try to explain them in a nice way. There's no excuses. I mean, it might be slower, but you can still make queens. I mean,
yeah,
crowding is usually the best way. If you're going to do classes, I would get you some mediums, some deeps, some 5 frames, some 8 frames, and if you got some 10 frames, get a variety of boxes and explain, principles of what you do with each box. It's good basic beekeeping, because you're going to get people that have bad backs, bad knees, can't lift stuff. And I've done one presentation at a bee club where I took a 10 frame box and I put a couple cement blocks in it. I took a 5 frame and I put a couple bricks in it. So you can duplicate how it's actually going to feel, and let the people come out and participate. Tell them, pick the box up. Be sure to staple the box bottom board on it good.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, you're just depending on propolis and you got bricks or a block in there that falls apart, you're going to have some mashed toes. But, people can listen to you talk about bees all day, but when they touch the box and they pick it up, it's a whole different thing. They can feel the weight.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. And charge a fee for it,
Yeah, I'm going to charge a fee for it.
Yeah.
That's, but they want to learn how to make some queens, and I'm going to show them how to make them 2 or 3 different ways or 4.
Yep.
Just using some of your techniques I've learned.
If you keep your class to, say, 2 hours, 3 hours, I wouldn't run too much longer than that, because you got to have people ask you questions, and be able to have the answers for them. Hands-on, since we've done hands-on, I mean, people leave here with a positive feeling. It's not like I have people coming and they say, I've been to this club or I've been to that one and I paid this much and I paid that, and all we did was watch videos. We actually didn't touch nothing, and all they done was wanting to sell you a bunch of stuff that you don't need.
Well, this will be all hands-on, and I'm thinking about having a class on Saturday, and then have them come back in 2 weeks to see the queen cells coming out. So, do a 3 or 4 hour class total.
Yeah.
Have spread it over 2 weeks.
I would contact several bee clubs around your area and give them notice that you're going to do it. And because a lot of bee clubs are not equipped to teach beginning beekeeping. I mean, they're in the process of want to sell you a lot of stuff.
Well, the ones I've got signed up right now are in our new bee club we created. And then I'll talk about it in 2 weeks when I'm there. So
another thing you might want to talk about too is chemical-free treatments, or treatment-free, or ways to treat your hive without even using chemicals. I mean, you're going to run across people that want to build a bunch of hives. You're going to run across a bunch of people that want no more than 4 or 5 hives. So they're going to have to do some other form of mite treatment.
Okay. I'll keep that in mind.
Okay.
Okay, over to Pat. Go ahead, Pat.
Hi, everybody. Don, what are your first signs in spring that you look for that things are getting started? And how long from that point on till nectar flow? And how do you prepare for that, for nectar flow?
Well, right now, we already have our second graft done. Well, they're out in the field right now putting in 300 queen cells. So uh, we're looking for when we get a little pollen. And if you got a business, sometimes you can't wait for the pollen. So we put some pollen substitute on and some pollen patties, and we put some stimulants in the feed. So that's what we do. The first in February, even where we are here, you don't get the best queens and you don't get the best cake, because when we put our first grafting, daylight temperature was probably right at 52 maybe, and we had to wrap them up in a towel and have them in a heated truck and take them out to our yard to put them in the cell builders. But once they get developed to where they're capped, we put them in an incubator. That's what we do. And now, if you're like a backyard beekeeper, when you see the pine trees blooming and when you see dust clouds, there's no way you can make a mistake making queens. I mean, that's the best way to make them right there. Crowding is your best way. You know, if you have a small amount, you're going to get good queens. Don't use wire in there. If you're going to worry about it collapsing, use fishing line. That way you can cut your cells out. But try to keep it as natural as possible. All the techniques that I talk about, they work. It depends on how many cells you want. See, right now, I mean, some people 300 is a lot. We have our schedule set up now. We jump to 500 to 800 next week. So we have to start building up. And then 3 weeks from now, we'll be doing 1,500 to 3,000 every 3 days. Because another thing too is if you're grafting at the house there, always have extra cells and let people know we have ripe queen cells. There's people come buy packages or stop by and buy queen cells. And you really don't have a whole lot in queen cells. You take one cell builder out there and you throw your grafts in there, you've got 45 on a frame, throw 2 frames, you got 90. And if you get a 90% there, I mean, that's good. And all you've got is probably maybe 3.5, 4 pounds of syrup. You put them in the incubator, and when they're ready to hatch, the day before they hatch, you sell them. You're making $5 a piece, no guarantees. Then, you know, you can go to the next step. You can pull a queen out of your mating box or a 5-frame box. You can pull one out every single day, 7 days in a row. You can sell them as virgin queens. You have a little bit more time in there, but if you're talking about volume, you can do several hundred in just a few boxes. Now, if you're selling mated queens, you pull your schedule out about every 14 or 17 days. You can pull a mated queen out of there. There's a lot of ways I keep telling people to skin the cat.
All right, over to Nancy. Go ahead, Nancy.
Hi, Don. I have a question. I had someone ask me what if they need an inner cover. Well, I know the inner covers, the main purpose is to provide like pollen and stuff or inside the, or what is it for? And
I don't know. I think a lot of people listen to the bee suppliers selling you extra stuff. I have never found any good it has done other than if you're going to pull a lot of honey. An inner cover works good because it's got a oval hole in there. You put your queen, a one-way escape in it, puts you some Vigo on the bottom. But when I stopped using inner covers many years ago, I eliminated my ant problem, my roach problem, hive beetle problem, all that stuff.
so if they're doing honey, that was her purpose. She's doing honey, and she was at. And I said, "Oh, you don't need that. That's just one of those things that you don't need." But then I got to thinking she might need it because she's doing honey and I'm doing something totally different. So
there's people that like to do that extra step.
okay, so
I mean, it serves no purpose. If you stop and think about when you open a hive up, you pull that lid off. Now you're pumping up this thing that's stuck to the inner cover.
okay,
You know, if you got a good fitting inner cover, it's going to be glued down. Those bees make that seal perfect.
okay,
I think years ago, I'm talking like 40s and the 50s, it was done for honey producers because they used to stack stacks of boxes that was full of honey. And that inner cover was put on the top and they put a fume board on the bottom. and the fumes would run those bees out that one-way exit. That little, it's got two little fingers in that oval thing, like that. And the two
Okay.
little fingers, as the bees come through, it's like a turn gate. It opens and lets them out and it closes. They can't get back in. That's what I always seen it for.
Okay, well, thank you, because I encourage her to watch your videos. She's brand new. Dave, we delivered her boxes to her that Dave made, and she's already bought her package already, but I invited her to the bee yard. I'm doing 7 separate weekends this spring, just inviting people that are brand new, that have never had bees or never experienced being around bees, just to watch me work my hives. And we're getting the response from people ordering boxes from Dave.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's working out really nice.
Right now, if I had the help here with a sawmill, we could make boxes next to nothing. And boxes right now, I guess a deep probably about $18 to $25 for a deep right now. And now I have cut some boxes for people that like to make them real fancy. I made some out of oak, red oak. I made some out of poplar, which is real nice clear wood, and they stain them. So those type boxes, an oak box, they're heavy as heck, but people like to stain them. You get
Yeah.
$50 for that box like nothing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's Dave, there's 4 of us, and that's Dave's duty. He wants to just build. He's going to be building everything that we could possibly need, even their tables. So that's his chore.
Yeah.
I should say. Okay, thank
definitely
you.
can make money, but you end up shifting more to selling bees because you just don't have enough hours in the day.
Well, but these, because our mission is just to target the brand new beekeeper, and eventually I would like to be teaching and mentoring, and Donald, he's going to be doing nukes, and Donovan wants to do queens, and then me and Dave are going to have that farm store that we're going to have to supply those customers with, but yeah, so the 4 of us, we're all going to kind of take different areas, different routes, and cover everything. And Dave's going to be doing all the boxes and stuff. And he has other things to do too. But
learn what you can about teaching different methods.
yeah, I need to learn how to do honey so I can teach these guys how to do honey, because they want to make honey. And it's like, well, I'm just learning how to make bees.
Well, bees will pretty much make the honey. I mean, there's things you can do to the hive to where they'll make more honey. And it's simple, common sense stuff. Hive top feeder full of water, you'll increase your honey production drastically, because if you stop and think about it, if you don't have no rain for a while, all the older bees fly out to bring water back. Those young bees that can't fly or haven't oriented, they have to have water brought to them.
Yeah, I remember you saying
water on top, they use it for cleansing, cooling, and for drinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember you saying they can make 30% more honey just providing water through a bucket.
And then throw a salt block out too. If you're going to teach, put a white salt block out, and the bees will get on that salt, and you'll have less people with bees on them, because new people that's not been around bees, if they're nervous, they sweat, and the bees land on them, and they want to try to get that salt off, and then people start freaking out on you. So
now now they have salt with iodine. Do you buy the salt without no iodine in it?
Plain old white salt blocks.
Just regular white salt blocks.
Yep.
That you feed to the deer?
Well, you're going to have deer. I mean, they're opportunists.
But I mean, is it that big block that you're talking about?
It's the Snow
that
White
hunters can buy, huh?
The Snow White. They have a mineral block, which is a brown block. The bees will work on it a little bit, but they don't get enough salt off of that as the pure white salt block. And I just set it on an old stump or something away from your yard.
Oh shoot, we have those at the farm store. Okay. Yeah. So you don't need table salt. It's just a salt block.
Yeah.
Oh shoot, how easy would that be? Okay.
That's the whole purpose that I'm trying to teach common sense. I
was using table salt. I'll just get a block. Okay, thank you, Don.
The horses will love it too, Nancy.
Oh, yeah, so will the deer. Yeah.
All right, over to Melissa. Go ahead, Melissa.
Hey Don, hey everybody. I want to first start off by saying that I will be delivering Don's bees packages in Queens from Georgia all the way up through Tennessee, Kentucky, Indiana to Illinois. So if you want to place an order, you could go to my website, geesbees.com. And Don, I have a question for you. You know, you have students all over the country and the world. What's a good indication for people to know when to start feeding liquid?
Well, it's the simple thing I've got on so many videos. Walk around, lift the hive up. If it's light, then start feeding. I mean, that's the easiest way to do it.
When it's
Right
still
now, if
getting
you get a chance to
freezing?
look at the videos, I'm actually pulling honey, and this is the end of February. It's not predated. It's not an old video. I just put it up, and we shot it about an hour before I put it up. And we are actually pulling out frames of honey. I don't want it. I'm using it to make splits. So
Yeah, but you're in a warmer climate than me and a lot of other people. Like we chatted last week about the
hive,
temperatures
you
and
go around the back of your hive, you lift it up. You're asking about when to feed. So
no
no matter
liquid.
where you
When to
live, you
feed,
lift the hive up.
when to feed liquid.
Well, if you got enough to take care of me in the fall, you shouldn't have to do any. Now, if you are running short for some reason, like extended winter, I would recommend just dumping some dry sugar in the back. You know, use the moisture inside the hive to liquefy it a little bit. But keep the moisture out of the hive, you know, especially where you are, you know.
Until when can I start liquid feed?
Eh, you know, if I tell you a date, then you're going to hold that against me because
No, I'm not asking for a date.
if you see
like
several days in a row where the bees are flying and they're staying, you know, fairly warm, go ahead and feed them. Feed them
okay.
thicker sugar, you know, sugar water. Don't cut it down to 1-to-1. I mean, you're just putting too much moisture in there. And if you're worried about that, you can save your honey from the previous year, put it in a honey bear or a ketchup dispenser, and just turn the frame sideways and squirt it into the frames and just let it sit there or shake it and then set it back against your cluster. That gives you a good, quick emergency feed.
Thank you.
Okay. I hope that answered your question. You get your crystal ball and you look in it.
Thank
All
you,
right,
Don.
Okay.
over to Pat. Go ahead, Pat.
I got a couple of answers. First one's for Nancy. Nancy, I use inner covers during nectar flow. It gives me a top entrance and it gives them also, it's a little deeper on the side where the entrance is. One side is shallow and one side is a little deeper. And so we turn it to the little deeper side. It gives them room to come in and they pass off their honey to the housekeeping bees and fly back out. So they don't hang around very long, but it gives them a chance to come in and do that. And during a heavy nectar flow, I have the bottom entrance, I have an Amiri shim, and then I use my inner cover hole as the top entrance, and they're hitting all three entrances heavy. So you can use it for that. And then in the winter, you can remove it to close down, or you can just push the lid back against the hole so that it covers that up, cuts down on the airflow from the cold. And for Melissa, I set up exterior feeding stations about 20 feet from my hives for the liquid. Any day it's above 50, they're going to be flying. I'll set up a feeding station. It makes them have something to do. They don't store that, but they'll use that day and the next day, and it can get them through a cold spell. If you're still having really cold, the best thing is the dry sugar until you get those temperatures up during the day. But once the nights start staying above 55, that's when I put my liquid feed back inside the hive, because if you should get that air bubble to move due to barometric pressure change and it drips on the bees, those nighttime temperatures are warm enough that it's not going to kill them. It might chill them, but it wouldn't necessarily kill them. So that's what we go by for our guideline for temperature. I'm not as cold as you, so it might happen for me in April and it might be May for you. before you put that feed back inside. Yeah. That's all.
All right. Back to Nancy. Go ahead, Nancy.
I have 4 questions altogether. I didn't get questions in last time, so I'm carrying them over. My other question is for these people that want to harvest their honey. How many like wildflowers, like an acre for like if you had a 10 frame hive, how much land does that person need to produce quite a bit of honey from native flowers, wildflowers? Do you have any idea?
The hive really don't need a big area. You could take a 10 by 10 area and put 10 hives on it. Those bees are going to fly out in a radius all around there, and they're going to harvest honey, nectar, and bring it back. And you don't have to plant flowers. I mean, if you want to plant flowers or stuff from the to do, it's going to help, but there is the surrounding area. There's stuff out there that people don't even think about. We've had stuff here blooming for 2 months already. Henbit is early, it's blooming full now. There's bed nettles blooming, and there's I think it's sorrel is blooming. There's probably 8 or 10 plants right now, and they're bringing in packed full of yellow pollen right now. And
Okay.
there's, you don't need a large area to raise bees. I mean, there's people that are in the city can raise them on flat rooftops.
Okay. If they're wondering about the nectar flow or what's available in their area, can they call their local extension club?
Yeah, you can get an idea what's going on at the extension cord. They'll give you a list of plants that's going on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, and no other hands up right now. Come on, somebody's got to have a question, comment. Really, Nancy? Go ahead. Unmute.
Yes, I had 4 altogether because I didn't talk last time. Okay, now I was in my beehive, my bee yard. I lost 2 hives, and I know it's because of the moisture, because the bees they're soft and they felt damp. So my question is, what do I do with the frames? Should I don't want to leave them in the box. I cleaned out the 2 boxes, but I have these frames. I suppose I could cut the wax out and add it to my chores for next winter, but what should I do with the frames?
Well, you say they're moldy?
No, the bees were soft and they're damp feeling, so I know they got hit with moisture.
Well,
Thank
basically,
goodness
you
it was
can
just
take
2
that
of them.
frame and just turn it sideways and bump it with your hand, or you tap it with your hive tool and get all the dead bees out. And then you can put the box in your garage, and then just every box reverse it, put it the box first and then 90 degrees to that, open it up to let the air circulate. And on a good warm day, put 1 frame at a time, in a strong hive.
Okay.
Some people will freeze them. We are at a scale, I would have to have 6 or 8 tractor trailers
Yeah.
with reefer units to keep it, cold. We leave a lot sitting out on the stand. Take the lid off of it. If you keep the lid off of it, you're going to get a little air in it. Keeps
Okay.
the mice out of it. If you close it up too much, it molds more, and you have more problems. Your wax moths start building up.
Okay. Thank you, Don. That was all my questions I had for two nights now. Thank you.
Are we
No
sure?
problem.
Yes, we're sure, E.
All right, over to Todd. Go ahead, Todd.
Hey, Don, couple quick questions. One, the cappings that bees make on brood and honey, are they the same or is there a difference?
Wax is wax. I mean, on honey, it's going to be a little bit lighter. The bees walk on it, it's going to start changing color. But are you talking about selling it for cosmetics or something?
No. Because, yesterday the news with the EPA came out about oxalic acids approved for use when honey supers are on.
Mhm.
So I'm thinking, why did it take them so long? I mean, if they knew that it couldn't penetrate the wax capping on brood, besides having open honey or honey that's not done yet, I'm just wondering why it took them so long. And
Does the
it's
government do anything quick?
well, yeah, it's true. Uh,
So,
I kind of knew the answer to that, but I was just checking.
everybody has their own personal feelings about it. I have treated with oxalic acid with honey on it. And to me, if you eat spinach or beet tops or a lot of green stuff, you would have to eat a bushel of it to have any kind of effect on you because it's got the same amount of oxalic acid.
Yeah.
I mean, you can take drinking water to an extreme and die from that, There's enough problems in the world. Keep the bees happy and, healthy.
Yeah. Now, my other question is, one of your recipes, your essential oil recipes, you had mentioned, and I can't remember which video it's in, but you had mentioned that it helps with nosema.
That's tea tree oil.
Tea tree oil? Okay.
Now, we do a lot of feeding of that, usually the first 2 months coming out of winter, because it's an antibacterial, antifungal deal. And it's basically a safeguard, But I haven't seen chalk brood or European foul brood or a lot of stuff that's, people's hive. And it's just a preservative, like, a preventative.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
All
like
right. No, that's it.
high doses of peppermint and wintergreen. The bees are going to have less chance for the mites to reproduce in the cell because you're feeding that.
Mm-hmm. Chalk brood, is that a queen related problem or more of a cold weather issue where they don't cover the brood?
Well, there's stone brood, chalk brood, and a lot of that comes from moisture in the hive and then in bad conditions and stuff, temperatures and that.
Okay.
If you keep the hive plenty of ventilation, it's just like the bees have common sense. I grew up in the north and I was used to sleep with the window cracked about 2 inches half of the winter. And my body says I'm too cold. I get up and close the window. And you can put a vent hole in the front of that hive and in the back and put a screen over it. If the bees think it's too much ventilation, they'll propolize it shut.
Mhm.
I've even had a video and I described in Ohio, I had bees all over the place. In one yard, I forgot to put entrance reducers in. The bees automatically closed the entrance up to about 3 inches. I mean, it was one big gooey propolis across there in about 3 inches. The bees are smarter than we are.
Yep.
And if you leave them alone in the woods, they survive. You put beekeepers there with all their gadgets and stuff that cause problems.
No, I understand.
I just keep it simple. It works good that way.
Yep. All right. Thank you, Don.
Okay, over to David and Tracy. Go ahead, guys.
Hey, good evening, Don. David and Tracy here, and from West Houston, and so we're selling nukes and queens with Don stock, and of course we're benefited from a lot of good training from Don, and I want to just pass the word along to make sure people go see Don when you get a chance, get some hands-on training. I think it's the best. So it's really good. Hey, Don, one other thing I wanted to ask you, coming out of the Texas freeze last week, our hives did well. I think we lost 2 out of 200 overall, lots of food for them. So they're in good shape. We're going through our second queen graft now, and we'll split more Monday. But do you have advice for folks that are just coming out of the freeze, what to do, what not to do with bees? Of course, it's warm now, but what should you be looking for after the bees have been in the bee hive for that long?
Well, what you want to do is check all the frames, on a warm day. During the winter, you're going to get a lot of field mice that try to make their way into the hive. And if they get in there and the bees can't take care of it, they'll propolize them over. Check for stores. Check now is the best time to start calling out frames, and that's what I'm doing now. Is I'm calling out the junk stuff. And the one video I done, take a dollar bill, fold it in half, place it in different places on your frame. If you can cover that drone comb up or stretched out comb with that half a dollar bill folded, you're in good shape. But if it takes a dollar to cover it up, including both sides, it's time to replace that frame. Put new wax in it.
Okay.
Make sure the hive is prepared. I mean, if you got frames in there that might look new, the wax don't even turn brown yet, but look at them close. If they're stretched out, then it's time to change them. Put them to the outside, let them make honey in it, and use that honey to make splits. And then when your queen
perfect.
hatches out, then melt it down.
Yeah,
Recycle
perfect advice.
it, you know.
I ended up with piles of burr comb all over the place, old wax that we pulled out, but I hadn't really thought a lot about replacing the comb itself. Some of it's pretty old, a lot of it's new, but stretched comb I hadn't thought of either on new comb as well. So those are good things to think about.
Well, you mentioned how many hives you got, and you only lost one or two. You're doing really good. I've done lots of videos, and I've mentioned a lot of times, and people laugh because they said that can't be true. You're an example of it. I tell people we normally run in our commercial yards 1 to 2. 3% of losses is high. Now, in my home yard where I have right off the street students that know nothing, I mean, it's like playing dodge car. You know, they get in there and they roll queens, they kill queens. And if you're taking students in September, you might not have a chance to replace those queens. So, you know, you're going to get 5 to 12% right then. But I keep telling you, if you're doing things right, 1 to 2% is a good average. Nationwide, I mean, there's people out there that say, well, I'm used to 40% or 60%. I don't know what they're doing wrong.
Yeah. You know, and you're right about bees. You know, they need ventilation even when it's cold and windy. So the last thing you want to do is plug them up.
Yeah.
And the other thing is, if they have enough feed, they'll create all the heat they need.
Yeah.
And if it's close enough to them, and I think that was one thing that really helped us was we had a lot of feed in there, a lot of honey that they could go to quickly. We're going to do what you're doing. This next week, we're going to pull out the excess honey and do splits, but we also have some to extract. So it's time to unload that stuff.
Well, if you're doing any scraping, propolis, and all that stuff, get you a little plastic bucket, carry it around with you, or Cool Whip container works good. All them little scrapings, at the end of the day, they add up. They add up big time.
Yeah, you bet. Great. Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Okay, over to Bren. Go ahead, Bren.
Hey, Don.
Hey.
Just want to say thanks to Melissa. We're going to be receiving a couple of your packages here. So how's the package production going down there in Georgia?
Well, it's looking good, but we don't have any bees that we're selling until probably late March, unless we get really hot weather. See, we have to stock packages and boxes for that there. We actually shook 160 packages the day before yesterday. But those go to our out yards because the boys are out right now stocking all of our queen boxes. So we shake packages with no queens in them, and then we dump them into a big 10-frame box with a screen on it. We spray them down, and when actually there's a video that the Sand Shafers took last year of the queen yard where Jerry was going with a dipper and dipped out a cup of bees and dumped it in each hive. That's what they're doing. I got my grandson over there. Steven's over there, my son-in-law, and I think they got another helper over there. And Jerry and Tina's over there. So they're stocking up. I think there's 500 boxes they're stocking up.
So it looks like we're still on schedule then for the cold weather hasn't put us behind on your packages then.
Well, if you listen to my videos now, I've done 75 splits, and in Easter, we lost them all. Yeah. I can't guarantee what the weather's going to be.
Certainly.
I'd be a weatherman.
Not a problem, but it sounds like we're still on course for your packages to arrive when they're supposed to. Thanks, Don.
He's coming up to take classes, right?
What's that?
Bree's coming up to take classes?
No, I was saying Melissa is I'm getting my packages from when she comes from Tennessee.
I'm
Yep, wanted
sorry.
to thank Melissa.
Oh, okay. As far as I know, when she comes down and pick them up, she should be all right.
Okay, good.
Because the orders that's in now, see, a lot of times people talk to me about, well, I'm going to get bees from you. Well, by the time they get back to me with a check, I've talked
Right.
to 25 or 50 more people, and I say, now you're down further on the list.
Yes.
I mean,
Not a problem. I thank you. Thanks for answering my question.
okay.
Okay, over to Matt. Go ahead, Matt.
You hear me?
Yeah.
Yep.
Mhm.
Well, I just live here in Mississippi, and my question is that we just got through this ice storm, I guess you'd say, and I'm starting to feed a little bit. When do you start using your brood builder? Do you use it right off the bat?
We started using it about February 1st.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was my main question because it's just now getting time for me to start feeding.
Well, see, January, the temperatures is fluctuating so bad, we put pollen patties on, and then we set some open powder, pollen substitute. We set that out in buckets sideways to let them build up.
Yeah, I've been already doing the powder substitute. But like I said, we just have thawed out from a little winter storm here in Mississippi. And but it looks like now the temperatures are showing in the 40s at night and 60s and 70s in the day. So
Are you grafting now, or are you going to be buying packages?
I'm doing the grafting and all.
Yeah.
I'm
Have you put your first
actually
graft on?
selling bees.
You done your first graft, set it up this year yet?
No, not yet. I was fixing to get, well, I've been waiting for my drones to show up.
You don't have drones?
I've got a few.
We looked at hives today, and they got quite a few drones in them. Now, if you're going to produce on a large scale, you might think about putting one green comb in each of your boxes, or every 10 boxes, put one drone comb in.
Yeah, which I've done that. I'm late about doing that. They hadn't filled them out yet, but
Are you putting them in the center?
no, I'm putting them on the outside. Do I need to put them in the center?
Where's the most heat in that beehive?
That'd be in the center.
And where the nursery needs to be warm, don't it?
Yeah.
I always teach common sense.
So you start off putting a green cone in the middle then.
Well, I can't tell anybody what they should do. I have to use every trick that I can use. I have to get the edge.
Yeah.
You know,
Which that's
it's like,
basically what I'm trying to do. But
there's a lot of people tell you can't graft. Well, yeah, the stuff that we do sounds stupid to people. We're in a nice warm room, we graft, we wrap the thing up in a nice warm towel in a vehicle and drive 500 or 600 yards, yeah, and put them in a hive. Yeah, that's a lot of extra nonsense, but who's out of the gate first? Who's producing queens first? So, you know, there's a lot of things I can tell you can do, but the average young beekeeper coming, he's got 1 or 2 hives. He tries it and he loses hive because it froze or chilled out, you know?
yeah, which I'm still playing it a little on the safe side. I probably could have, started earlier, but we had all that ice storm here a couple of weeks ago and temperature dropped down to single digits. I probably didn't need to be doing nothing then for sure.
What size incubator are you using?
You talking about what's that, a cell starter?
No, incubator. You use an incubator or use a cell starter and finisher?
I'm doing a cell starter finisher.
You're wasting too much time.
Yeah, I sort of figured that, but
Time is money.
yeah.
You put well, right now we got 25 or 26 cell builders, so we running about 100 cells to the box. We put them in there in 9 days. We pull them. We go in the incubator. Then we can turn around and drop another 100, 200 in each box.
Well, you're the incubator. I've heard you talk about it. You just using a refrigerator with light bulbs in it?
Yeah, I mean that's one of them. We got the first one we got is like a camp one. It's a small, like an apartment size. It's about probably 3 foot high. We got a full size, the biggest refrigerator you could get. It was a junk refrigerator. We revamped that. Now we can do 5,000 a day on that.
Okay.
So, as you grow, you have to grow with it or open your wallet and spend money. And I'm trying to be cheap, and I'm trying to teach everybody to be cheap.
Yeah, well,
Refrigerators are sitting along the road.
you setting the incubator on basically 92, right?
Yeah, 91, 92. We used to put a little cup of water in there. We found it. We don't need to do that.
In other words, you just set it on 92, 91, 92, and just let it go.
Let it go.
Okay.
Get you a big calendar and mark when you put them in, because you're going to have to wait identifying when they're coming out, because you're going to have sometimes a week and a half of cells in there. You can talk about, on a large scale, anywhere from 1,000 to 10,000 cells in there.
Yeah, well, I'm not that big yet. I'm basically sitting at about 70 hives, and so I'm not to that scale yet. But I'm
If you
headed in
follow
that
just
direction.
10% what I'm trying to explain to people, you get there, no problem. You won't build
Well,
boxes fast enough.
Well, like I said, when I first started, I didn't have but 5, and I jumped up real fast.
Mhm.
I mean, I'm doing okay, but I do need to get me an incubator. I do know that.
You can eliminate that cell builder, then I done a timing box. I done a video on that. That's another thing. If you're not sure of what you're grafting at, put the 2 vertical queen excluders in there. Put your queen in there with 4 frames, and then you got frames of bees on each side of the extractor or the excluder. And if you're going to graft on Wednesday, Sunday, you take the frame from the outside of the queen excluder, you pull 1 frame out between the queen excluder, put a thumbtack on it, stick it in there, make sure the queen stays between the 2 excluders. When you come back on Wednesday, everything is 3 days old. So basically, you can get your timing down to within an hour to 3 hours of everything coming out at one time.
Well, that is one problem I'm having with my grafting. I hadn't got my timing fixed exactly right, and because I, excuse me, like I said, when I'm starting to graft, I'm having a little bit of trouble identifying the 3 and 4 year old, and so I probably do need to do that where I can get more used to picking the exact age out.
Well, I'm trying to give a lot of free tips out there. I think some people's going to use them, some won't use them. They're simple and they work. I probably could write a book on it, but I'm trying to put enough free stuff out there. Hopefully, enough people start teaching my methods that we can do away with these mass production of everything.
Well, as far as you talking about an incubator, I could get a incubator actually from my brother. He raises chickens.
Yeah.
And he's got an old one that he don't like because he's upgraded his incubators, and it would work fine.
Well, you can go to Tractor Supply. I have one of their styrofoam ones, because when I'm in South Georgia and I go back home, I can put 100 or 200 queen cells in there, and I plug an inverter in my cigarette lighter in my truck. And when I go home, it stays at the same temperature. And then I might have people standing there, they want 50 or 100 queen cells.
Well, let me ask you this. What do you put your queen cells in when you put them in the incubator?
Well, you don't have to have it. You heard me talking about a Cool Whip container.
Well, I mean, you don't put them in the incubator in a Cool Whip container, do you?
Yeah, you can.
It don't matter if they lay sideways or whatever.
No, I mean, I mentioned on one of my chats, I had a Cool Whip container on an old pickup truck when I lived in South Georgia. And somebody pulled out in front of me and I jammed my brakes on. They were going to hatch their ripe cells. They're going to hatch within 24 to 36 hours. Cool Whip, hit the floor,
understand.
Cells everywhere. I put them in. I had about a 90% take.
Yeah, I understand that when you're going to the yard putting them in, but I'm talking about when you take them out of your hive at the 9-day and you go and put them in the incubator. What are you putting them in when you put them inside the incubator?
They're on a frame. You use frames with 3 bars on it to grab to, don't you?
You leave them on the frame?
Yeah.
Okay.
The frame has slots on it. 3 bars slide into those slots. The incubator's fixed up so when you take those bars out, you line all your bars up on each throw. And then when they're ready to come out to go to the bee yard, you just take a knife and cut them all off in strips.
That's what I was wondering. You leaving them on the bar to put them in the incubator?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. If you put the frame and all, you're losing about almost 3/4 of an inch between each row.
Yeah.
But once they're ready to hatch, you can lay them sideways. That's what I thought you was talking about.
Yeah. So you just leave them on a bar and just stack them up in there,
Yeah. Mhm.
basically like that.
They're hanging vertical.
Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Well, that's good. Like I said, I can get that other incubator for my brother. It's no big deal.
Mhm.
And do that. That would save a little time because, like I said, I'm just now fixing to start. All my bees are kind of behind. That cold weather snap we had knocked them back big time.
I'd put you some pollen patties on there. You can take a pre-made pollen patty and dump a little bit of fresh honey on it and smear it across the top, lay it on top of the top bars. They'll jump all over it real fast.
Yeah. Well, I'm not doing wrong by feeding them sugar water now when my nighttime temperature is 40 and then daytime is 60 and 70, is it?
Well, you're talking sugar water, sugar and water. We're using corn syrup, which is a lot thicker. There's less moisture in it. So we use that and we don't have that moisture problem.
Yeah, but I've just got sugar. That's all I can do with it. But if
Yeah.
I'm mixing it really, really thick, is that too, am I feeding too early?
You're never going to feed too early. You might want to make fondant up. Make up a fondant and lay it across the top bars. I mean, no matter how cold it's going to get or how warm it's going to get, that's not going to drown the bees or hurt the bees.
Make a what? You have to,
Fondant.
you lost me.
Fondant.
What is that?
It's sugar, and you can mix it up yourself. It's sugar and honey mixed together. Use powdered sugar, and you just keep rolling it. It's basically like a cake icing, except real thick.
Well, see, I've got sugar and stuff on them. I mean, on them now. In other words, your sugar cakes.
Yeah.
But you think it's still a little too early to be feeding sugar water?
Do you eat every day?
I mean, you know what I'm saying, with the temperature at night being 40 and
if you're not putting a lot of water in there, you got to feed them.
Yeah.
That's going to stimulate them.
So I'm okay feeding now, you think?
We haven't stopped feeding. We feed year round.
Well, like I said, I've just got, around 70 hives, and I lost, I think 4 hives this year over the cold. And they were still alive until we had this hard freeze the other day. And
well, we slowed down this time of the year. We're probably only feeding a tote a week or every 10 days.
yeah,
In 3 weeks, we'll probably feed 3 totes a week.
yeah. Which y'all's temperature is a little different than mine, but I ain't far from being different.
Yeah, this is the last 2 days we've had almost 80, but then a few days before that we was down in the 50s and 60s. So it hasn't stabilized. Next week's going to be in the 60s or maybe low 70s.
Well, see, ours is basically in the daytime it's 50 and 65, and at night it's like 40 to 50.
Mm-hmm.
So we ain't quite where you're at yet, temperature wise.
Well, when the weather warms up, they're going to start going. You should have stuff over where you're at blooming. I've seen snow melt and dandelions come out and start blooming again.
Yeah, we've got the dandelions. They blooming.
Is henbit blooming where you're at?
Not that I've seen any.
Yeah, it's been blooming about 4 weeks, 5 weeks right now.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm trying to watch everything, but the dandelions is the only thing I've seen really blooming so far. But the bees are bringing in something that I hadn't seen them bring in, so they're getting something somewhere.
Well, you should have red maples, even if you got that snow. You should have red maples budding out now.
Well, probably do, but right where I'm at, I'll be honest, I don't know where there's a red maple at right here around my house. So I'm not for sure, but I do know where one's at about 5 miles down the road. I ought to go down there and look and see. But like I said, I'm just right here. I'm like a week or 2 off from one way or the other, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's basically my question. That's really all I've got right now.
Okay. Over to Dennis. Go ahead, Dennis.
All right, can you hear me?
Yep.
All right, I'm just letting everybody know I am going to make it to Don's second week of April. So anybody wants any packages, get a hold of me. And I'll be coming down through Chattanooga, Tennessee, all the way into Georgia and back up through St. Louis to Columbia to where I'm at here. So get on the list quick. But all righty, that's all I wanted.
Okay. All right. Do we have any more questions for tonight, anyone? Jameson, do you have a question? Unmute.
Yeah. I'm fixing to get bees from Greg. Would it be package bees, that is? Would it be better to dump them in a 5-frame nuke or go ahead and dump them into a 10-frame?
The smaller the box, they're going to build faster. They can hold the heat, get the heat hot in there. They're going to lay the babies faster. Big box, they got to heat it up more.
Okay, that's all I got.
It was easy. All right, then I think that'll do it for tonight. We're just about at time. So thank you, Don. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you all in 2 weeks.
Thank you, everybody, for showing up.
Stick around for the after chat if you'd like.
I'll stick around a little bit.